Bonita Springs City Council meeting on the 19th of January 2022. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Will you please rise for an invocation? We have the Reverend here. Tell me the Reverend didn't show up. Okay, my turn. Dear Lord, please help us. You always are with us, and you always are guiding us. Please help us to bring your kingdom of love and grace and mercy to the city of Bonita Springs and all the world. Amen. Pledge allegiance. Fred, would you please lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, approval of the agenda. I request that the city council allow the essay contest to come forward.
Mr. Mayor, we need to do roll call.
Huh?
Roll call.
Roll call, yeah.
Make sure you're the right person.
Councilwoman Carumba?
Here.
Councilman Purdon?
Here.
Councilwoman Carr?
Here.
Mayor Steinmeier?
Aye.
Councilman Corey?
Here.
Councilman Gibson? Councilman Forbes?
Here.
Okay, approval of the agenda. With the crowd of the young people and families and stuff, I'd like the city council to approve moving 9B up, the essay contest up right now before public comment. If it is.
So moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Councilwoman Carumba?
Aye.
Councilman Purdon?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier?
Aye.
Councilman Corey?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Okay, Sheriff, you're on deck. You need a microphone?
Yes.
You guys come up, please. Yeah, thank you. We're set. Thank you very much.
Okay, this program is one of 20 years worth of work with the kids in Bonita, and this essay is probably 8 or 10 years, and these kids know how to read and write. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. On behalf of Sheriff Marcino, I want to thank the City Council for allowing us the opportunity to be here this evening and to recognize the fine students that we have here today. My name is Blake Lee. I'm the captain of South District. Here this evening with me is Lieutenant Levitt, who's also part of South District. Sorry, Captain Levitt, who is also part of South District, and Lieutenant Decus. We have Corporal Hunter, and we have Deputy Aaron Ortino that's here as well. We're here this evening to go ahead and recognize the efforts of the students of actually all the elementary schools that we have here in Bonita Springs, as well as the efforts of the Bonita Springs Community Policing deputies that participated in this program and put a lot of hard work and effort. In essence, what we do in the Bonita Springs Community Policing program has actually gone out of their way for over 28 years now to be able to provide a special Christmas to part of our community, and we have done so. That has actually taken on different facets over the last several years. For about the last 10 years, we've actually partnered with the schools in an effort to include our students, and that would be the children that are from kindergarten through 5th grade. And we allow them an opportunity to go ahead and submit an essay. That essay is then reviewed by our community policing deputies, and then these children, the recipients, the winners of this project, actually have an opportunity to shop with the sheriff, where we then go ahead, we take them out, and we go to one of our local businesses, and then they get to have a Christmas that is going to be very memorable, especially participating and sharing that Christmas with law enforcement, so it's tremendous. I want to thank the schools, first of all, the administrators at the schools, the teachers, and the students for participating and helping us make this the success that it is. I want to thank each and every one of our deputies that are here this evening and those that are not. that have stepped up and worked very, very hard to make this happen. They actually had to go through 2,000 essays that they had to go ahead and read to make these selections, so it was not easy. And I want to thank the vendors, all our businesses, our local businesses in Bonita Springs, our residents in Bonita Springs, who all stepped up and they contributed monies to go ahead and make this program the success that it was. So I want to thank everybody for that this evening. What we're going to do is we will start. We were able to, with our program, the way that we did it this year, we were able to incorporate Oak Creek Charter School, which was one of the schools that had not participated with us in past years. We were able to bring them on. So we were able to recognize 24 students in this event. So it was awesome, and the kids were great. I'm sure that every single one had an amazing time. But again, remember, we're looking at several thousand other students that were not able to participate in this, but they actually were winners, and we appreciate them as well. So I'm going to hand this over to Deputy Ortino, who will go ahead and call up the school. The plan is we're going to have the school is going to be identified. If you're with that school, the name of your student will come, have them just come forward, please. They'll receive their certificates. If there is anyone here has everybody checked in? Is there anybody here that has not checked in with Deputy Ortino as far as the student goes? Okay, great. So we're good there. All right. Well, again, thank you very much. City Council, again, thank you very much for your support and having us here.
Pleasure.
Mayor, if you want to join us for the presentation of the certificates, please. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and start with Oak Creek Charter School. All right, the first student is Jonathan Rodriguez.
Come on up, John.
And then Emily Kolvenbach. Estella Garcia Tomas.
Yeah.
Emily. Is it Estella?
Estella?
Logan Mejia. And Genesis Fonseca. Genesis. No, she's not here.
Future of Bonita.
All right. Congratulations, guys. Thank you.
Spring Creek. Sorry. Ready? All right, the next school is going to be Spring Creek Elementary. We're going to start with Julian Bryan. Oh, right over here.
Certificate, and then you'll make your way over. Thank you. Congratulations.
Sydney Johnson. Amy Kravchenko. Jakayla Warren. And Diana Santos de Leon.
Job. I like that attention to detail. There you go.
All right, the next school is going to be Bonita Springs Charter. And we're going to start with Bryn Thomas.
I like your hat. Lady Liberty. There you go. Here's something for you.
Where's she? Bryn.
Thank you.
We'll find yours.
Valentina Morales.
All right. Valentina. Hey, very good.
Trin Vo. Is it Trin? How do you pronounce it? Trin? Yeah. Okay.
Very good.
Melanie Garcia.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And Chloe McFarlane.
Is you? Yeah. Well, thank you. Very good. Thank you. You guys work hard around here, I tell you that.
Do you have everything you need?
That's a unicorn or something.
Maybe more.
Or the double corn.
Yeah, Bryn Thomas.
I thought unicorn first.
That's the little girl. Yeah. All right, the next school is going to be Bonita Springs Elementary. Anais Miguel. Delaney Cohen Ward. Allison Murillo. Valerie Lagos Tercios.
Yeah, absolutely. Proudest. One of the proudest. We missed her, but we'll find it, right?
Yeah, we're gonna try and find it. I think that her teacher might have.
Might have
Thank you. Because she wasn't there. Jocelyn De La Cruz Perez.
Everybody here?
Oh, Dennis. Texted me to wake up.
There you go.
Not good? All right, Bobby, camera. Good job. Bye. See you. Nice seeing you. Come on, baby. Is that all schools? Just go ahead.
All right, that concludes all of our schools. Again, we wanted to give a big thank you to all the local businesses and people who donated to this program. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do it. So again, thanks to all the businesses. Bobby, who gets it?
That's so sweet.
Yeah, I'll send pictures.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Kathy. Thank you again. Where are we at here?
Crowd settle, I think.
You're very welcome.
Okay, all right. Well, first we gotta have public comment.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh, wait a minute, wait.
if I may. Sir, I was wondering if the council would be open to 9A coming a little bit up in the agenda.
Let me run this for a little.
No, can I just ask a question for you, sir? We have the chairman of South Florida Water Management District here, and I don't want him to have to sit through zoning. So if you all would be amenable to it, after public
me run
comment,
this
that's
meeting,
great.
okay?
After public comment, I'd like to see if we could have them bump up so they don't have to sit through zoning.
Yes,
So,
Let me finish my sentence.
okay, great, thank you.
Okay. All right, mayor's welcome. You're all welcome. Thanks for coming. At this time, we're gonna have Botana and Adam.
Mr. Mayor,
What are you gonna do now?
well, because this is an item on the agenda, I would have public hearing, I would have public comment first in case there's any comments on the interlocal agreement that's being proposed.
Okay, we are required to have public comment before we have Phil Flood and Adam Botana and Chelsea Goss speak. So
So,
at this time, we open up the public comment.
correct, so this would be public comment for any item on the agenda with the exclusion of the 3 land use items tonight. There are 3 land use items, and a public hearing regarding bond financing, which is the last, those items are separate public hearings, and so if you're here for any of those items, we would ask that you come forward when the item is called. You have 4
Okay.
minutes.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. Good evening, council members, Representative Botana, Chairman Goss, and Mr. Flood of the South Florida Water Management District, and members of the public. My name is Jude Richvale. I live on Tennessee Street in Old Bonita. Tonight I will comment on agenda item 9A. I have over 40 years in information technology and GIS, a minor in geology, and a major in communications. I served as a senior consultant to several major utilities, including the New York City DEP, which manages 5 upstate New York reservoirs as New York City drinking water. I'm also former chairman of the Bonita Communications Advisory Board. Here is the outline of a Bonita water master plan that can kill 3 birds with 1 stone. 1, reduce flooding. 2, increase the availability of cheap irrigation water. 3, reduce pollution of the Gulf. BSU, Bonita Springs Utilities, can pump water out of the Imperial River during summer storm season at several locations. Placing pumps upstream from Old 41 could prevent future flooding of the downtown area and Bonita Beach Road. BSU can then pipe the river water to their cleaning facilities and then to ASR wells to store the water in underground aquifers. BSU can then retrieve the water in winter for irrigation, and there should be enough water for all at low cost. It costs about $1 to $2 million to dig an ASR well. I've worked out the cost effectiveness figures of trenching irrigation pipes in all Bonita public streets. Councilman Mike Gibson told me that he checked my figures with community development and that they told him that the figures are in the ballpark. The work can be done gradually over a period of 5 to 10 years and will save BSU members about $10 million a year in water costs. This even after paying for the irrigation water piping at a cost of $90 million financed over 30 years. Reducing the outflow of Imperial River's stormwater laden with pollutants and fertilizers will also protect our beaches, reduce red tide and manatee deaths. A question you might ask is why no one has come up with this idea before. Seems a simple idea, right? Pumping water out of the river. The answer came to me when I was at the BSU annual meeting in March 2018. Mr. Jenkins, the BSU CEO, presented there an array of slides of the 2017 Bonita flooding without comment or elaboration. He simply pointed out the locations and said, "See flooding," and more flooding. I realized at that point that Mr. Jenkins had a vague idea that flooding involves water and that BSU is a water utility. So it was a good idea to show flood pictures. He presented no ideas as to how to capture the water and reduce flooding. So why is this not being done? The main reason, I think, is divided authority. The city government cares about flooding and pollution. BSU focuses on supplying water and sewer services. In comparison, the city of Naples runs its own water utility and has a master water plan that includes recycling sweet water into 2 ASR wells from the Golden Gate Canal. I propose that the city create an advisory board to study these issues and allow it to get expert help from South Florida Water Management District, BSU, the DEP, and others as needed. The members of this board should have a background in geology, hydrology, GIS, civil engineering, soil science, communications, or a combination of these. I would respectfully suggest that no unqualified gobs, good old boys, be appointed to this board.
Well, it's a good old boy. What's a good old boy? I'm an old man. Who are you talking to?
I mean, I said unqualified good old boys.
What's a good old boy?
Good old boy is someone who's lived here for a long time and maybe was born here, is a resident, knows all the people around here, that type of thing.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, let me just finish this, please.
You're done.
I have one sentence left, please.
You're
You
done.
interrupted me, so I have one sentence left, please. Please? I suggest that no unqualified gobs be appointed to this board. The gobs stood idly by, or worse, took part in the sale of floodplain land to newcomers. So they are part of the problem, not part of the solution. Thank you very much. Any questions? I'm willing to answer.
Not allowed. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Public comment? Yes, Alex, hurry up. We got a lot of stuff to do tonight.
Who's that? Alex.
You can take your mask off so we can hear you.
Okay, Alex Grant, 11851 East Terry Street, Bonita Springs, Florida. I used to be on the first local planning agency and city council for 4 years, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, my background, educational background is in chemistry, and I have a master's degree in soil science, major in soil chemistry, minor statistics. Okay, I happen to have a number of textbooks, journals, etc., and I am willing to make that available to the city on trying to get the water done in a proper way. And I would suggest that you also get Greg Rawl, who was, when I was on the local planning agency, he a very good geologist. If you can get him on board, I don't know if he's retired or if he's still working, and a hydrologist, and then people from Southwest Florida, South Florida Water Management District, Department of Environmental Protection, etc., to try to get this water situation, which is our #1 priority, taken care of. we need somebody that to be in charge of this type of a committee, expert in the area, and somebody on there that also can communicate this in simple matters to the public. Anyway, you know where I am. If I can be of any service, please let me know. Alex
Thank you,
Grant.
Alex, thanks for your service. Any other public comment? Okay. Well, we're ready for 9A. Who's gonna lead that? Phil Flood?
Do you mean 8? No, 9.
We moved it around a little bit. Did we move 9A up, Phil Flood and,
Mr. Mayor, I don't believe, when you made changes to the agenda, I don't believe there was a motion on 9A.
yeah, you're right. Can we make, can I make the motion now?
That's what motion I made.
Second.
Vote on that, Deb, please.
Councilman Purdon?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier?
Aye.
Councilman Corey?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba?
Aye.
Okay.
Mayor and council, I
Are all
believe
the
you have
parties here?
Representative Anna Botana. I understand that I believe he's available on Zoom right now or virtually, and also Phil, he is connected to us, yes. And Phil Flood is here, and I believe also Chairman Chauncey Goss is here with us
Very
right
good,
now.
folks.
So Phil, if you'd like to
Welcome.
come forward.
Yeah, I haven't seen you in a while. Mr. Goss.
Mayor, council, we're going to wait for the Zoom.
Well, you can go
He
ahead.
should be there.
Okay. I just want to say thank you very much for having us here tonight, and thank you very much for considering this cooperative agreement. It's between the South Florida Water Management District and the city of Bonita Springs. I can say I've been working very closely with most of your council, many of your council, and your staff. You have a fantastic staff. They've taken the time. Everyone's very persistent, Councilman Forbes particularly. We've been working on this for a long time, and he's made sure I know what the issues are and how to resolve them. That's one thing that the South Florida Water Management District can do, is help you. We have incredible technical expertise, and we're willing to do that, and that's what this cooperative agreement will help us with. I'd also like to thank Representative Botana, who did help sort of get us a little bit more focused, and Senator Rodriguez last year, helping us to focus on the issues in South Lee County. We're, of course, working with Lee County as also, but I think that this memorandum of agreement is just between us. And I'm here to answer any questions and to sort of offer my support to you and your staff and our staff support. And I also want to tip my hat to Rick Barber, former governing board member who's in the audience with us today, who probably knows way more about this than I ever will. I think we're working on technical.
In the interim, Mayor and Council, your staff has reviewed the interlocal agreement. We've also provided an update to Lee County staff. They are aware that should council move forward, they're aware of the agreement as well. As it was stated, this is just an agreement with the city of Bonita Springs. And staff has reviewed that the items in there would be helpful to the city staff in future projects.
Very good. Mr. Flood, you want to fill some time in? Phil Flood. I've known him for 20 years maybe, huh? At least
Getting
quite
around
a
there.
few.
Getting along that long? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, he delivered me, I asked for a little magazine about Zeroscape. He showed up with 150 of them or something. So please help yourself. There's a bunch of them out in the lobby.
It is a
Tell
great
you
guy.
what to plant, where to plant it, how to water it, and it's a beautiful magazine, and I appreciate that. And we're going to get them out into the public. Zeroscape means very little water. If you plant the right place, right plant at the right place, you should conserve a lot of water. So
Same on display out there, so.
very
Well,
good.
I will just mention that we've worked really closely with Matt on trying to incorporate all of his recommendations, the things that he would like to see in here. You know, over the years, the Water Management District has done a lot of work down here in this area. We've assisted with some of your stormwater improvements that you've had in the stormwater master plans.
Yeah.
Recently finished up the
the Southern Crew project where we acquired that 4,000 acres and used that as an area to help store water, to keep that out of the river during the rainy season.
Did you do Spring Creek?
We help with some of the cleaning and snagging of that, yes, sir. So.
Mayor and Council,
Mr.
Representative Botana can hear you. Unfortunately, we just can't see him on the screen, but he can hear you, so you can speak to him as well through there.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask just a couple of questions
To who?
to these gentlemen?
I thought Mr. Botana is just listening, he can't
Well,
speak to us?
these are, I think these folks can answer.
Can Mr. Botana speak for himself?
Yeah, I'm here if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay. Hey, just real quickly, I want to thank the mayor and, council for moving the meeting so I could be here. And I want to thank Phil Flood and Chauncey and everybody at South Florida Water Management to bring this to fruition. I know there's a lot of people out there that know that we've been working on this for a long time. And it needs to be something that needs to be done for our area. Bonita Springs, our hometown. And let's hope this is a step in the right direction. But it's going to be good for our area. And then, thank you for accommodating me this evening.
Well, thank you for your help, sir. Phil, do you have anything more to add to this?
Oh, happy to answer any questions if you've got some.
Okay, Laura?
Thank you, sir. One, I believe that certified mail is not deliverable to a P.O. box, so that might be something you need to correct. But what about fees? Like, do we have to hire a new person? Is there a back-end door that is gonna cost the city money? And then, like, who's responsible to oversee this in the staff? Are we hiring a new person? Who's paying for it? So, like, the logistics seem to need a little bit more ironing out.
Those are
Okay, Matt.
wonderful questions. We don't anticipate any additional staff. We really see this as a cooperative agreement, really kind of based on the district's technical expertise and their area of oversight. So we don't anticipate any monetary exchange unless the district, has any dollars to contribute or something that come up.
Hey, Adam.
Hi, Adam.
Shameless plug, but no, honestly, we see the help and the benefit coming out of this agreement. We don't anticipate any
Great,
additional
okay.
staff.
We also contribute to the South Florida Water District in our taxes.
You do.
Yes.
Okay, so they're compensated
We're
to a
not,
certain extent. Okay.
we're not anticipating any budget increase or transfer on the city's end for the interlocal.
Okay.
And we have a designated staffer that's going to take this over?
We do.
Okay. Matt.
The city has a number of projects that they're involved in, and we're gonna bring some of our expertise to assist with that and help review some of the engineering work, and we do have at least one project where we'll be stepping up and helping with some funding on and things, so.
That's
And
great
these
news.
projects that we're working on are already identified in the CIP as well. So these are projects you've already directed staff to move forward on.
Okay, Mr. Botana, do you have anything to add to us?
No, like I said before, it's a good situation. We're trying to work with Phil and Chauncey, and it's Drew Bartlett. I know Ray, our Senator Ray Rodriguez has worked on this for a while. So let's try it out, and we'll get some attention down there in Bonita Springs, South Lee County, and maybe we'll bring a couple hard hats on. Phil, what do you think? Maybe have some projects, and maybe we can get a couple blue signs that say Project of South Florida Water Management. That'd be awesome.
There we go.
Very good, very good. Thank you, Adam. Anything else? Yes, Fred?
Yeah, why don't you just mention 2 or 3 of the projects you might help us on? Not for me, but for the benefit of the viewing audience and the people in this audience.
Well, one of them, the immediate one, is trying to get all set up in the event we have another major flood event, a major storm event with some flooding over there. We'll be all set and ready to go to bring in some pumps and be able to move that water to the south. So it's a lot of coordination with the Big Cypress Basin, Collier County, trying to determine when the conditions would be right, setting up that right location, establishing, bring some pad in there, constructing all the kind of the infrastructure that's needed so that the city can bring their pumps. Y'all have acquired a couple of pumps, temporary pumps, so you'll be all set when that comes forward into fruition. So that's something that we're working on. There's another one where we're looking at trying to help develop a forecasting flood model that would give us some indication as the amount of rainfall, current conditions, when we can expect the river to reach its flood elevations, how long to anticipate that sort of stuff, and kind of help us in forecasting and such. And then Lee County's got some other projects in the works as well, and so we'll be assisting with them, and I'm trying to bring a couple of those projects into fruition as well. And then whatever might happen to come as a result of additional work and modeling, just continue to share efforts over here, and we'll help in any way that we can. One of the things is we put in a plug for your resiliency plan up in Tallahassee. We've got a very close relationship with the governor's office and DEP, and so we went there and put in supported y'all's your projects up there, and we'll continue to do that and any other projects that might come along like that. So.
Okay. Matt, are we purchasing some pumps or reserving some pumps or something?
We already purchased some earlier this year. I believe it was earlier this year. So we've taken receipt of those, and we have them, in the event.
We're ready for.
Yes, sir.
Anything else?
Mr. Mayor, if there's no other questions, I know this is listed as a presentation item, but I believe the district is looking for approval of this agreement.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Roll call. Any other comments?
I just want to thank all involved that helped to bring this agreement of cooperation between the entities that are represented, and at least the articulation of the areas where we're going to work together will be really wonderful. And I know we always need help to do our regional projects, so I appreciate the effort that's been made by Mr. Batana and everyone else. It's really quite an accomplishment, and Matt, thank you for spearheading it also. So I'm very much in favor of this agreement, and I look forward to seeing some fruition to this promise that's expressed here.
I'd like to make a comment to Mr. Botana about his Christmas decorations were far out, beautiful. You win the prize if you were around Old 41, but fantastic, very good. Thank you, sir. Anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I also like to say thanks to Rick Barber. I've seen him in the crowd there. He's been a big help from this from the beginning, and I know he's passionate about this, so we're getting it there.
Very good. Anything else, folks?
No, thank you very much.
We have to vote?
Vote.
Okay.
Roll call.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier?
Aye.
Councilman Corey?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba?
Aye.
Councilman Purdon?
Very good. Thanks, folks.
Thank you all, and thank you, Rep. Batano.
Thank you, Adam.
Yes, thank you, Adam. See you on the boulevard. Or Forster. There we go.
Thank you,
He's just
Mr.
a
Mayor.
neighbor.
Your next three items, Mr. Mayor, are all land use. The first one is a special exception request, and so there will be a full quasi-judicial hearing on that. The next two items are first readings. There will be an opportunity for public comment, but I understand for both presentations that staff will be making their presentations as well as the applicants at the second readings. At this time, if you have not already submitted them with the clerk, I would ask if there's any ex parte on any of the three items. And for members of the public and staff, anyone who intends to speak today, even if you just came to watch, but you feel that you might have the urge at some moment to stand up and say something, I'd ask that you be sworn in at this time and raise your right hand and indicate whether you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, we can call the first item, which is zoning resolution considering a special exception to allow vehicle and equipment dealer Group 1 use within the historical zone of Old Bonita.
Good evening, Council. Mary Zizzo for the record. This is a special exception request for an indoor car storage and sales room, Unit M5 in the Causeway Commerce Park. It is rather similar to a request you heard just 2 months prior for 3 units down. This operation will be by appointment only. There is access in the rear of the vehicles, which will remain off at all times, and pedestrians with appointments can enter from the front entrance. The zoning board recommended approval at their December meeting, 6-1. Staff recommends approval subject to the conditions in the staff report, and the applicant does agree with the conditions. I can present, or if you have questions or comments, we can move forward.
Move forward.
If there are no questions to staff, I just open up to public hearing to see if there's any members of the public who wish to speak on the item.
Seeing none.
You need a vote?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Mayor Steinmeier,
Aye.
Councilman Corey,
Aye.
Councilman Gibson,
Aye.
Councilman Forbes,
Aye.
Councilwoman Caramba,
Aye.
Councilman Purdon,
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next item is a zoning hearing of the city of Bonita, a zoning ordinance of the city of Bonita Springs, considering a request to amend the schedule of uses for the Bonita Springs zoning ordinance 1902 to create a Phase 1A of approximately 4 plus or minus acres in size to include indoor-outdoor sports challenge complex with consumption on premises, and to add 3 deviations and providing for an effective date.
Motion to move to second reading.
Second.
Okay, at this time, I would see if there's any public comment.
Yeah, I have a question, if it's okay, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Who oversees the traffic count? Because it's pretty extensive. And then who reviews it? Hi, Mike.
Hello. Good evening, Mike Fegan with Community Development for the record. So this is going to be a joint effort, if you will. The monitoring stations are going to be paid for by the applicant, and they're going to work with the city's traffic consultant on the correct placement. The data methodology is in the conditions of approval, and the data is going to be sent to the city's traffic engineer and to Public Works on the basis outlined in the report. So it'll be the city doing the primary data dive, if you will, and interpreting all the data that comes in to see
If
what
they
needs to be
pay
done.
for it and they send it to us?
Yes.
Excuse me, Mike, is this ready to be voted on at this moment?
No.
It's just a first reading. You'll get the full presentation with it at the second reading, but we did provide a little summary for you in the green sheet.
And I do have a second question, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. With regard to the parking, it says that they have to minimize it if it doesn't, who's going to minimize their parking when they have a card room that is packed?
Well, you're absolutely right, but if you remember when the Bonita Beach Road overlay was passed, one of the caveats of that overlay was to not include unnecessary asphalt if it's not needed. And in this case, since we're unsure of the traffic volumes, which is why we want to do the monitoring, it's unclear whether or not they really need those excess spaces or not. So it's one of those things that, keeping in the spirit of the overlay, if it's determined that they're not needed, the applicants agreed to convert them back to green space or open space, which we think is right in line with what the overlay wants anyway.
Uh-huh. And what if you don't do asphalt and you do sort of parking with, pebbles and,
Not in the Beach Road overlay.
okay. Just clarifying. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
If there's nothing more, I believe you have a motion and a second to move to second reading.
A motion.
Roll call.
Councilman Corey,
Aye.
Councilman Gibson,
Aye.
Councilman Forbes, Councilwoman Caramba,
Aye.
Councilman Purdon, Councilwoman Carr,
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier.
Aye.
Okay,
Okay,
next
next
item
one.
is a first reading and public hearing on a zoning ordinance of the city of Bonita Springs, considering a request to rezone approximately 113 acres plus or minus from RS1 and RM2 to a residential plan development, RPD, for a maximum of 350 dwelling units pursuant to Division 43 of Chapter 4 of the City of Bonita Springs Land Development Code, and providing for an effective date.
Mr. Attorney, the change is what, from residential to residential?
It's residential, single-family, residential, multifamily to a residential plan development.
What's the difference? I hate to be stupid, but what's the difference?
A plan development is essentially a custom zoning district, which is also a requirement of your golf course redevelopment standards. So maybe, Mr.
Kind of
Fegan,
pick
I don't
You
know,
mean you
staff
could
can
come
answer
in
the
there and build one house and you wouldn't have to do this?
Under the code that the city adopted previously for the redevelopment of golf courses, a rezoning is required. because there are certain standards with respect to setbacks, densities, and other issues that need to be addressed that are not addressed in the current existing zoning.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Motion to move to second reading.
Second.
Public comment?
Yep, public comment. Is there any members of the public wish to make comments? You have 4 minutes.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Barbara Ogle, and I live on the east side of Carnoustie Court. You are considering the first reading of the rezoning request for 113 acres known as the Bonita Springs Golf Course. Although the zoning board and staff recommended passing this along for the second reading, I oppose the deviation requested by Barron Collier Company. When the city passed the ordinance 1907, which established criteria for the redevelopment of golf courses, it was to allow redevelopment of the golf courses and also protect the surrounding neighborhoods. This rezoning does not meet the criteria for the surrounding neighborhoods, particularly deviation number 7, which required a 50-foot setback in the ordinance 1907. Barron Collier states that it needs the setback to be 25 feet because of restraints due to stormwater requirements. And as my husband says, if you follow football, you'll know that 25 feet is not even enough for a first down. At this time, Barron Collier and the city are still working on how much land is needed for stormwater and flood mitigation, how much the city will have to pay for the land, and the lakes. How can the city move forward with this rezoning request while so many questions remain unanswered? Please put this request on hold until more information is forthcoming. I also invite any and all of you to come to our home to see just what the impact would be for the east side of Carnoustie, Wood Ibis, and Divot Drive. What looks good on paper does not always balance out with what you see yourselves. And Debbie has my information if you'd like to contact me and schedule an appointment. You also received several emails from residents in Cedar Creek and their concern about the water flowing into the headwaters of Spring Creek. So I ask you to consider the residents of the surrounding neighborhoods. The ordinance was put in place to allow redevelopment, but also protect the surrounding neighborhood that's there now. And we would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that Mr. Esmond and maybe even one other member of the public have requested to, in their 4 minutes, to utilize a PowerPoint presentation. If that is something that the council would wish to consider, it'd probably be efficient to address that now.
Make a motion to approve.
Are we setting a precedent, though?
This would be for this
'Cause,
meeting and this meeting
Mr.
only.
Richfield, he handed out his PowerPoint, and that's typically how we do it. That there's we receive paper and we see the PowerPoint, and then we have it.
Well-
So I would prefer not to start a new precedent.
I think as long as they stay within their time allotment, it doesn't matter how they present it.
Okay.
I agree.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Councilman Gibson,
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba,
Aye.
Councilman Purdon.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr,
No.
Mayor Steinmeier,
No.
Councilman Corey.
Aye.
Passes 5-2.
Ready? Starts the clock.
Good evening. For the record, Dwight Esmond, Paradise Acres. Regarding the Barron Collier application, I have questions that I hope you will consider before you vote to approve these requests. First, how is Barron Collier constrained? Whoops. Ordinance 1907, passed unanimously in July 2019, requires them to address existing stormwater capacity in surrounding developments at an equivalent or improved level of surface. But how much rain are they required to handle? Will they handle more rain than that? We had almost 24 inches of rain during 2017. And Barron Collier presented this at their last meeting. And the city is buying land from Barron Collier. How much land?
Excuse
What
me.
price?
Can I clarify that? We're buying land from Barron Collier?
Yes.
there has been discussions about acquiring land, but there is no contract or proposal currently in place.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. The city is buying land, but we don't know how much. Okay, the second question, does the Barron Collier plan improve water quality enough? Singhofen said we need 70 acres to improve the water quality going into Spring Creek without adding any homes to the golf course. How many acres are in the current master plan? Does Singhofen agree that that's enough? How much rain will cause water to go into Spring Creek without any filtration? And won't we have more outbreaks of blue-green algae and red tide? The current dormant golf course does not add any pollutants to the water that flows into Spring Creek, but you add 300 homes and the roads, and we will add pollution. Has that been, oh, and we also have lots in San Carlos Estates that will have septic systems. Spring Creek is already impaired. We've got to control the quality of water. Question 3, does Barron Collier plan improve the area flooding? Normal summer rains cause street flooding all over this area. But yes, the plan will work if the rainfall is within the design limits and the system works exactly as planned. What happens if we get 24 inches of rain like we did in 2017? Or if we get 30 to 60 inches of rain like we did like Houston did? Or if the pipes are clogged or the pumps fail? Most of the golf course is lower than the existing homes, and very few have flooded in the past, but if you can see in that picture, it came very close to flooding. The new homes will be higher, and they will stay dry while existing homes flood. The final question, is this the best use for this property? And I'm going to save that discussion for a future thing because it doesn't apply to these deviations. But I want to paraphrase George Bernard Shaw. Some people see things as they are and ask why. Some people see things as they could be and ask why not. Why not build the best stormwater system we can build? And I know you don't typically ask questions, but I will be happy to answer. And if you want to see some pictures of flooding, I will be happy to show those. Otherwise, I'll sit down. You're not allowed to ask questions, so sit down. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Hi.
I'm Julia Baxter. I live at 10241 Maddox Lane, right across the street from the clubhouse, what used to be. I have heard that there are two solutions being considered to solve the issue of flood control in the golf course area. Option number one, by far the existing owners, homeowners' favorite, is no development, where the city convinces the Lee County Conservation 2020 Program Committee to purchase the entire golf course to create a reliable and long-lasting storm water management system. That's number one. Another option, and I consider should only be considered if option one fails. And that option is to work with the current owners of the property, the golf course, Barron Collier Company, to develop the property in such a way that all flood control issues are resolved and the nature of the development is consistent with the consistent and enhances the surrounding neighborhoods. Option number one, which I like to call the 2020 solution. Without an increase in homes, many development issues go away. With 113 acres, not the unknown amount of acres in the development, but 113, all of it, would allow easier and less costly flood control development. Less disruption to many existing homeowners. And without the construction of 350 new homes as proposed, our traffic issue goes away. We don't have that. We don't have to build a roundabout at Paradise Road. Water control issues are not increased by those homes. minimal damage to existing roads, and the capacity of the utilities is no longer a concern. But if option 2 is considered, which I just call development, and I think, again, I want to say should only be considered if option 1 fails. So with development, we do hear and want to acknowledge that the city and Baron Collier have a sincere effort to resolve issues. But the public still has concerns. The proposed gravity flow system requires a network of homeowner associations to be responsible for maintaining the water management within their community. Recent history has shown us that one weak link in a system causes severe flooding, such as when the golf course was abandoned, the pumps controlling water were just turned off. We've also heard how drains are clogged and so forth. Here are 4 issues that I hope you'll consider before you sign off on this project. Number 1, educate the homeowners associations within the area, about the system. Explain how maintenance of their groundwater will affect the area, the overall area. Number 2, the city needs to budget for annual inspections of the critical water flow areas, report failures, and require remediation. We need written statements from all utilities that will be impacted by the new development. They must state that they will have either no degradation of service, or if they do, we need to know how much it would take to improve them.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Paul Sheldon. I'm a resident of Bonita Springs. I live 23205 Salinas Way. I have a short presentation. I don't want to repeat what others before me have said, but I would very much implore council to read the ordinance that they passed, 19-07, the end of 2019. Four members tonight of council signed that in favor of it. And our concern with Bonita Lakes, which is a 268 home community, among that community, 27 of our homes are directly contiguous to the golf course. So those houses are directly affected by the process here. This is our community, and it is top right on the screen there, and 27 homes are contiguous to it. I mentioned the ordinance, and deviation number 7 is critical to us, okay, everybody? That's the deviation for the buffer zone between our community, there's 27 homes, and the proposed golf course community. So the buffer zone is being reduced from the 50-foot requirement, which is in the ordinance, to approximately 25 feet requirement. That's 1. 2 is others have stated we have not heard of any effect on stormwater, wastewater drainage, and the like. We would like to know on that. 3rd, we have not heard on utility impact. We have some challenges with utilities today. We would like to know on that. We circulated a petition to our 268 residents and had 240 of them sign them. So I'm here representing our neighborhood of 268 residences with these points. Stormwater drainage, have not heard of impact for Bonita Lake specifically, nay or yay. The deviation that's in the ordinance, number 7, the 50-foot deviation for the buffer zone, we have not heard on that. We've not heard on the utilities and whether they're going to be impacted or not. We have not heard on a wall separating our 27 homes from the new community. It sounds like there's not going to be one. Why not? And the like. So I would very much encourage, if I had one message, is for this group, this city council group, to take a look at the ordinance just over 2 years ago that you approved, and now we have deviations and requests that are veering from it for this new community. So that is my message to you, and I thank you very much.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
William Clark, 10301 Wood Ibis. I actually would like to just make a few comments. One is change the zoning, change the land value. I don't think we have enough on the engineering that is going to be required for the project. Allowing changes will set a precedent for any other development that comes along. Other issues here belong to the presentation that Baron Collier did at the Zoning Board of Appeals made the statement that 38 acres minimum will be bought by the city. Work those numbers through 113 acres, and the application itself is going to require 45.7 acres of open space if you go with the 40%. I don't understand how the numbers work between 38 acres, the 45 that they need for open space. They can't, if they sell us the land, they can't use that as open space. The other parts are, what do these pipes look like? How are they going to work? Right now, we have them on a concept plan. This is where it will be. How that works, we don't know. You're taking and changing our land values. You're taking away drainage ditches now. You're shrinking, by changing the zoning, the protection that we have from the golf course now. We have street runoff that runs across our property, runs into drainage ditches that, when the golf course was designed, is made to handle that stormwater. Now we're going to fill in the drainage ditch, put in a berm, and we are told by Baron Collier it's going to handle the stormwater. I see no plan that's going to do that. I see 3 to 4 feet of water when we get a rainstorm. That water is going to sit in my backyard. I don't understand how it's not going to take and have a worse effect on me. I'm done. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. Any more comments, please?
I'd like to make a comment.
I think we had one more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Name is Melissa Beasley, Carnoustie Court. I don't do this for a living. I'm retired, so I'm supposed to be laid back, so this is very confrontational. I apologize for my nervousness. Because it's confrontational because there's been opposition about this reduction in berms, a reduction in setback. I mean, it's a no-brainer that it's a wrongdoing for this community to do that. It's your first golf course for Bonita Springs, which is, to me, only 20-plus years old. Means it's really in its baby, infant, toddler years of doing these things, and it really has an opportunity to set a really good precedent for Bonita Springs. That is, between Estero and Naples, we can really stand out with this being equal to, if not better, than Naples Botanical Garden. Just imagine that. If you've all been to the Botanical Garden, it's astounding. This is 113 acres. The Naples Botanical Garden is just over 150 acres. Very compatible in acres. Your engineer that we've spent taxpayer monies on said that they need 70 acres to address the stormwater here. 70 acres. We're only dealing with 113 acres. That should be gobbling up all of this development for housing. It's undevelopable for housing. It's also situated, if you look at 75 and 41 and Striker Lane and Shangri-La, it's a bit of a bowl there. If you, this is an unbelievable opportunity to do stormwater 100% and above the stormwater structure, it be recreational, a botanical garden. Imagine that.
So that's my, I'm here to vote against housing development. It's, and I can't show you this, and I don't know if you have the packet from the Collier. Do you have their packet? Page 18, do you have it with you?
I don't.
No.
Okay. Just to show you, Mayor, just show you?
No, stay back there.
Well, right?
We'll go to page 18, we have it.
Okay,
But not
thank
with
you.
us.
Page 18 is something that your fellow Mike, forget his name, the engineer, back in the 1970, whatever it was, that resolution, the buffer zone protection of the golf course. He was suggesting 75 feet buffer, and it was decided to be 50 feet. Now, the applicant is asking for a reduction to 25 feet with a plastic white fence. If that's not offensive, pun intended, I don't know what is. Imagine that. Within a few feet of your property, a plastic white fence. I just heard the buzzer go. So it's very lopsided. Page 118. There's tiny little puddles here that are supposed to absorb the runoff of 200 homes, four streets.
Okay, we're about done.
Okay, I
Thank you.
suggest, yes, thank you.
It's first reading.
Any more comments? You had something to say, Chris?
Yeah, I think part of the problem is there's not been real good communications with the residents that live north of Shangri-La. And I think a lot of questions remain in their minds that need to be answered. I just learned this evening, for example, that what was decided at some point, that when Singhofen presented council the good, better, best alternatives, that somehow everything's being planned around the best alternative. Well, the best alternative, if I remember right, costs a lot of money. Well, what I'm being told is that Singhofen and Baron Collier are now working it into their plan. I'm just saying that, I'm just hoping we can improve some of the communication on this project, get some of these questions answered before we move to second reading. Because I'm not, it seems to me that we as a council representing the people need to have an understanding of what Singhofen and Dan Waters, who's representing Baron Collier, are going to agree to with respect to the needed stormwater management system, because that will drive how much acreage is going to be available, if any, for development. And that, in turn, seems to me to drive the necessary zoning variances. So where we're at, it's gone through zoning, we're going through first hearing. I would just hope that we could have some additional information such that it's clear to everybody how this is going to work. Because right now, I'm not sure that, I look at the city as having responsibility for the overall drainage plan for the entire area north of Shangri-La Road. The development of Baron Collier is a part of that, but the overall responsibility remains the city, and I'd like to know how we're going to do it. And then that would drive how the development's going to occur, if it can occur. So, I would like to continue the process. I'm not saying cancel the process. I'd like to continue it until such point in time as we get some answers to these questions, and so that the public and so that council understands what's going on. I heard tonight that one of the council members didn't even know we were gonna buy the land to put in the stormwater management system. So anyway, hopefully we can reduce the amount of confusion.
Mr. Mayor, I have,
Let me ask you a question here. Mr. Attorney, is this going to be a homeowner association when it's all done?
I don't have the answer to that question. I believe, recalling from my memory of the zoning board, that yes, there will be master homeowner associations that are responsible for elements of the stormwater maintenance and other maintenance duties as typical in such a project.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I would observe
There's
that
a motion on the table.
I have, you said I could,
Yes,
after
ma'am.
you.
Okay.
Could you explain that the 2020, I believe we didn't qualify.
The 2020, the project was submitted for 2020 at some point last year. The city submitted the application. 2020 is for the edification of the public, is a voluntary program where the owner indicates that they'd be willing to participate in the program. We submitted that last year. At that time, Barron Collier owned the majority of the property, but there was one piece that had not been taken down, so Lee County essentially rejected the application at that time. They have since taken it down and is now going through that process. That process requires it to go to an oversight advisory committee that looks at it for qualification to the LEAD 2020 program criteria. If it meets that criteria and it appraises in a realm that is reasonable to the property owner, ultimately has to accept the price, then it would qualify fully for the project and could be acquired. But I want to preference this for consideration of the council and everyone else. The discussions about acquiring the property, the discussions about LEAD 2020, all of those issues are not considerations lawfully that the council should be considering during the process of a rezoning. Rezoning has very specific procedures for approval. Those procedures, we have actually statutory deadlines to proceed with them. It would be nice if the project had moved faster through LEAD 2020, but at this point, unless the applicant is requesting to slow the process down for LEAD 2020 purposes, it must proceed, because that is not a valid basis to continue the proceedings under the rezoning. They're a property owner asking for something that they are entitled to ask for under the code. If there are requests for additional information, and I'm certain that stormwater issues can fall within that realm, then it would be eligible for continuation on those, to address those issues. The applicant, as I understand, is not prepared to respond to questions tonight. They're not presenting. Perhaps they can address all those issues that are raised tonight, Councilman Corey's, at the next meeting. If they cannot, and they don't, if the council feels they don't meet the standards, then the matter can be continued further to get answers to those questions. I know that's difficult for the public to understand, especially for the neighbors. If I'm living next to a project and know something's going on, I also know that there's considerations for a long period of time to acquire the property, do other things. How that fits into the rubric of quasi-judicial plan development standards, I understand is not something that their expertise at. I think that everyone has been very thoughtful in their questions tonight, but I just want to lay that out for everyone here, for the council, and everyone watching at home, that there's a process. Those processes are laid out in the code. If you read the staff report, it lays out what those criteria are and whether or not at least staff and the applicant have reached those criteria.
In my second, I'm sorry, I did say I had two. And this is just out of curiosity. Since COVID, we've seen lots of plastic clear. Have they come up with fences that are clear so that instead of the white, there are clear?
Laura, can we, there's a motion and a second. Can we vote?
No, I got some more comment.
What is the motion?
Amy?
There wasn't a motion.
There was a motion and a second to move it to second reading.
Second reading, where we can talk all night.
Oh,
But I thought somebody
In the
made,
second reading.
I thought somebody made a point to continue it.
I made a point to continue it until the, my
The motion is,
I'm speaking, Mr. Mayor. When I'm done speaking, you can speak. My problem is not with the applicant. My problem is trying to understand what the city is doing to meet its obligation to manage stormwater under the comprehensive code for the area north of Shangri-La, and how that limits what the applicant can do. I'm not against the applicant. I'm simply trying to figure out how the city's gonna meet its obligations to manage the stormwater, because it's not only gotta do that under the code, it's also gotta manage water quality and the downstream community, the water quality going to the downstream community. Perhaps there are answers to all that, but I think there's a responsibility on the part of the city. I think and secondarily, there's a responsibility on the part of the applicant to address these issues. And if it necessarily takes a continuation, so be it. I mean, this is a project not likely to start for a long time. I'm not sure why we should race ahead at this point until we know the answers to what the stormwater plan is.
Mr. Attorney, can I call a question?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Councilman Forbes?
This is on the call of the question.
Question and the conversation.
I'll go for it.
Before I say that, does anybody else want to speak? Being on the other end of this, I don't want to do that to anyone. Does anyone want to speak?
There's a motion to call the question.
Okay, so I vote in favor of that.
I forget what the question is.
We're voting on the call to question to end the conversation on this and vote.
And then we're gonna vote whether to move it to second reading, that's what the point is.
Correct.
Councilwoman Carumba?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr? Aye. Mayor Steinmeier?
Aye.
Councilman Corey?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Okay, now if we could have a vote on moving it to the second reading. We have a second.
Nope, we have
We
a
have a
motion,
vote
a
now.
second, roll call.
Councilwoman Carumba?
Aye.
Councilman Purdon?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier?
Aye.
Councilman Corey?
No?
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Mayor,
Okay.
now
Yes,
I would
ma'am.
like to speak. I have to.
Would like to,
Excuse me.
it's clear to me that this is gonna be one long hearing. I don't think it should be a meeting and a hearing. I think it should be a separate hearing. And that's all, but I think long before that, even if we have to have a special meeting, we can get the experts in here to go
Please
through the
speak up to the,
stormwater
I
management
cannot hear.
design that has
Fred, please
already
speak
been
into the
designed.
mic.
Speak into
The
the,
people are asking questions about it.
speak into the mic.
When I
please.
finish, you can take over.
Wait a minute now.
Microphone.
Oh,
I can hear
Yeah, we
you.
can't hear you.
Anyway, what I think, number one, we need to have this as a separate hearing because it's gonna take a lot of time, gonna be a lot of public comment. Secondly, I think before we have the hearing, which might mean a special meeting, we need to have a meeting where everything we know about this, we got a stormwater management general
Fred,
design.
I think you're out of order here.
No, I'm not,
We voted to move it to the second reading, right?
yes,
That passed?
all I'm saying is that we need more information in front of this council before the hearing. That's all. Right now, the audience is saying they don't have any.
Put in for a green sheet. We're not gonna discuss it all night. Put in for a green sheet for whatever you want. As a councilman, you're allowed to do that, okay?
Yeah.
The next meeting's February 2nd. Okay? Baron Collier's gonna try and answer all these questions that have come up, so can we move along, Fred?
I don't think it's the way to do it, but if you want to do it that way, that's fine.
Well, it's not on the agenda, Fred. It's not on tonight's conversation. We voted to move it to the second reading.
Excuse me, it is.
Any one of us can
Mayor.
call for a special meeting if we want to. I don't want to go that far. I want to see
Ca-
what my comrades think about it.
Right, excuse me, I'd like to speak also, and it is.
Yes, absolutely.
We need to clarify we have already voted to go to the second reading, which is scheduled for February
February 2nd.
2nd, all right? There has been a request for additional information, and my question to Derek is there a provision by which individual councilmen could ask for more clarification on certain things that we could ask the applicant to provide at the second reading?
The answer is yes.
All right.
The applicant may be able to address all of those questions, all the questions, along with city staff can ask, may be able to address all the questions that have been asked tonight. We won't know that until the second meeting, although obviously they're all in attendance here, so they're clearly gonna be following up. Any council member can follow up individually with the applicant, the neighbors, or staff to get additional questions, provided they submit their ex parte disclosures ahead of the final hearing.
But we could submit it to you, right, or to the staff, and they could submit it to the applicant, right?
Sure.
All right, we don't have to talk to the applicant. all
You
right?
don't have to talk to the
All right,
applicant.
and then at the next meeting, if we find that our questions are not answered fully, it's at that point that we could ask to continue the decision if we don't make a decision.
Correct. The code lays out that a continuance can be requested
you.
by either the applicant or the council. If, for the council's proceedings, they can ask it if there is relevant questions to the pending application. So, maybe not lead 2020 would probably not be relevant, but questions regarding engineering, design, other things that come up within the rezoning request would be relevant.
So I think we've done a good job, and we should just continue to the second reading.
Okay, how about consent agenda number 10?
You have one more presentation item for Jay Welsh and Rex Sims.
Oh, yeah,
and Certificates of
yeah.
appreciation.
Okay, Jay and Ray, or Jay and Rex. My old friend Rex. Hey, Rex. Hey there. Hey, I'm doing all right. How you doing?
Oh, it's such a bad one. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sir. This guy's been in town. How many years?
I know.
20, 50?
I helped incorporate the thing, and I helped write the charter.
Yeah?
And I helped write the comp plan.
And he's got the best
Now I'm
flowers.
gonna
He's got the
retire.
best flowers in town.
All
Rex
right.
Simmons,
Oh, that's
certificate
really
of appreciation and recognition of for your years. What, 21 probably?
21 years.
In the local planning agency, and he knew me and my family for a
Long time.
Long time. I'm sorry you're going to retire on us. 'Cause
Well,
you got a level head.
We're all working for the same little town we love.
Oh yeah, we got to keep it.
We got to keep it that way.
That's right.
It's going to give me some time to do some writing.
Yeah.
I just published a new book.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good.
So
You
I-
going to donate a signed copy to the city?
to the mayor.
To the mayor. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate being able to.
Okay, Rick. Okay, Jay.
Yes.
Hey, Jay.
Cringeworthy.
Jay, with the Historic Preservation Board, architect, been with us at least 7 years, if not more. If you're familiar with the Historic Preservation Board, we have some money that we can use to help people keep their old houses over, if they're over 50 years old and they're a historic resource, they can come to our council, to our committee, and ask if we will approve the improvements, like a new roof or something that doesn't change the character of the property. If it's approved, they get to pay for the work, and when it's finished, they show us the paid receipt, and the city will reimburse them for the work. Now, the advantage of this is old houses can be very expensive to keep up. And sometimes old people live in old houses, I don't know. But this is one way to keep the neighborhood up. In a way, it's very selfish, because if one house goes down in the neighborhood in value, it takes the value of the whole neighborhood go down, and we won't get as much taxes. So we are a taxing entity. whether we like it or not, we need to have some sort of government. And Jay Walsher has been with us and has advised us for 7 years. He wasn't always the president. I reappointed him as president this year, but he has other obligations. And I really appreciate his work for all these years, and give him a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for your kind words. I appreciate that. It was a great honor for me to serve the city of Bonita Springs and its citizens over the course of these years. And I also wanted to express my sincere appreciation to both City Council and city staff for your fantastic support over all these years. Without your help, it would not have been possible for so many individual homeowners to protect and preserve their own individual structures within the city of Bonita Springs. So thank you very much for that great support. And also, I wanted to wish my successor, Mr. Alan Glazier, all the very best for his new position as the chair of this very important board for the city of Bonita Springs. And also, of course, my special thanks to my fellow board members, both past and current board members. I have great respect for the enormous amount of time everybody invests in these voluntary positions.
That's right.
And without that, we wouldn't be here, and without that, that would not be possible.
That's right.
So may the city of Bonita Springs become even more beautiful than it is. Thank you very much, and it was an honor for me to help you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. We got in a picture.
Okay, we're up to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any other comment? Vote, please.
Councilman Purdon,
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr,
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier,
Aye.
Councilman Corey,
Aye.
Councilman Gibson,
Aye.
Councilman Forbes,
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba.
Aye. I'd like to comment on something. I'd like to comment on one of those,
Yes.
please. I'd like to comment on number F, and I'm very pleased that we're going to be having a public hearing on the work that's being done by FDOT on the quadrant plan. And I just would suggest to, and perhaps the staff is already planning to do that, but we should advertise that way in advance so that we can get people out to comment on the progress there. And it's, again, an important step that we're taking for something that we've been working on for so long. So it's good to see it on the agenda.
Thank you. Okay, we're up to number 11, Chris Corey, Eagle Cam. Thank you, sir.
There was discussion probably over a year ago when we were still meeting in the rec center about the possibility of putting an eagle camera to watch the bald eagles in Bonita Springs. It's been very successful as a program up in Fort Myers. And so I took the initiative to talk to some people in Bonita Bay who make bald eagles a hobby of theirs. And we actually have 2 nests along Spring Creek that the bald eagles come back to every year. And one of those nests in particular would be very good to be able to put a camera so that people can tune in and watch the eagles and the young eagles as they're developed from the egg up to adults that can fly. So the council asked me to pursue this. I've worked with Laura Taylor on this and the people at Bonita Bay. We think it's a doable project. There's a cost breakdown. These are estimates, $55,000 and an annual fee of $2,519. I have had discussion with Hotwire, who is the internet service provider in Bonita Bay, and they're willing to help us with the fiber build that's necessary. That would save us about $6,500, and they would be interested in waiving the monthly charge. So that would save us our annual fee costs. Bonita Bay Community Association's meeting tomorrow to discuss whether or not they would be interested in helping fund this. There are certainly a lot of people in Bonita Bay individually, I know, that would help fund this as well. So this is a green sheet to discuss the project and determine if council would like for us to proceed from this point. We know the rough cost of it. We think the cost can be offset by donations to some extent, and I think it would be a very positive thing for Bonita Springs. So
And to clarify for Councilmember Corey, if the council does move forward, he would be working on telling us what those additional donations would be, and the budget transfer for the city's side of it would only be to make up the difference between the donations he receives.
The young eagles are still in the nest, and this is a project that could not start until they vacate the nest, and that would be next summer. So we would be doing the process would be we would be trying to raise some money to offset the cost of this for the city.
Okay.
I would move to table this until we know what.
Can you ask the chair first? I'm trying to
Yes.
talk here.
I'm so sorry.
You're sorry. In my conversation with Captain Blake Lee this evening, they put cameras up. They're about $500. They put a battery in them, and they can hook up to the Wi-Fi, and they use them for surveillance. So there's a big difference in cost here. I would recommend we, maybe I'll give it to Matt, I don't know. Matt loves the extra work.
Well, Mr.
See if we
Mayor,
can get something to go on, some other bids, some other thing, a little bit less than $55,000 to $57,000, a lot of money. So anyways, that's my suggestion.
Mr. Mayor, may I now?
Yes.
I suggest we table this until we know what Bonita Bay is willing to pay and willing to contribute, because it is a blocked community. Only Bonita Bay can actually go and enter, unless you're going to be opening up the community.
Well,
But let's see what you said tomorrow. There was going to be a vote on how much money was going to be forthcoming from Bonita Bay, and I think then the mayor's questions
We need some more
will be addressed. So we table it until later.
Well, Laura,
What's the table? I asked,
Do I get to speak?
as soon as I asked what,
No. Excuse me.
Essentially, she's asking to continue it to another meeting until the answer on Bonita Bay can be resolved.
And
Right.
Amy wants to say something, though.
the question I have is a table, what does a table mean, as opposed to a continuance?
Same thing.
There's no practical difference for our purposes.
Okay, Amy, I'm sorry,
Okay, I'm getting a headache tonight, I'm sorry.
I am too.
I disagree with tabling it. I appreciate the work that's been done by Bonita Bay and by Chris Curry. The reason that it's $55,000 is, if you read the material, is that it's not just for a camera, it's for putting in all the infrastructure like electricity and all that other thing. I think the cost is minimum when you think about, it's like a fixed cost, and if they can come up with some money to offset it, I think it's fine. We've been talking about this since I've been on the council in 2016, of trying to get this kind of an operation going in Bonita Springs, because we have eagle's nests all over Bonita Springs. And I think that we can just tell them to, let's get the information together. And until he comes back with the information of what the actual support we might get, we have 4 months to get people to make donations. My expectation is that it'll be pretty substantial, because I know how that community operates in other communities. We don't have to take it. I mean, let's make a decision. Either we want to go through with this and have it in the city, or we don't. It's a wonderful opportunity, and it's a positive that that's a gated community, because then you're not going to have all these visitors harassing the eagles. You want it to be secluded and where there's control over it. We're not going there to go see where the nests are. We're going to look at it on our internet. That's the whole point of having a camp. So I don't agree, I disagree with the things that have been said.
Mr. Mayor? I agree with Amy. I don't see a point to table it, and like she said, it's a camera, so everybody's gonna watch it from home. Nobody's gonna be going to it. And if Bonita Bay is willing to, raise some of the money and cover a good chunk of the cost, I think it's worth it. We have been talking about doing this for a long time, and, we actually have an opportunity to do it now, so I think it's a good idea.
But let's wait and see what they come up with. Talk's cheap,
Well, I mean, we're not saying we're gonna do it right now. I mean, they're gonna, so, I say.
You're having a meeting.
Can I make a comment that I didn't see anything in the green sheet about Bonita Bay raising money? Is there anything in that green sheet about Bonita Bay raising money? This conversation just makes a difference, okay?
What's your question?
Question is,
All we're asking for is, all this green sheet is asking for is to determine if you would like staff to proceed with the plan, to put it in place. We're not asking for money at this point. We're just asking if you would care for us to proceed, with the planning and raising of money to get this thing done. We're not asking for dollars now.
I saw nothing in there that said that Bonita Bay was gonna contribute. Is there anything in there that says they're gonna contribute?
No, you're right, there's not.
Okay,
So what's
so
your
that's
point?
my question, okay? It's a big chunk of money. If they wanna contribute, that's fine. But,
Good.
so what do we gotta do? Do we have to vote on something here?
Well, there's,
Mayor, I wait to see if there are any other council members have any comments, but essentially, Councilman Corey is correct. All is requesting, and they put a great deal of detail, is whether you want staff to continue to work out an agreement. At this point, the agreement would involve the city spending money, but there's no final determination on it. So the item will definitely be coming back to the council for consideration.
There would have to be a consideration of a budget transfer, because this currently is not in the budget. So that would be when you would have the total information on the cost for the
Okay,
city.
thank you. Jesse?
Yes, a question for you, Chris, and this isn't money related yet. Does the Eagle Pair have a name? I'm just curious. Does the Eagle Pair have a name? Do you know?
That's a good question. I don't think so that I've heard a name.
Cool. Okay. So, and then number two, I would say I am kind of the mind that this is something we've been thinking about. And really, if you look in detail at the green sheet, it's a zero risk proposition from our standpoint, because it's not a contract. So we say this stays alive, they go to the meeting, they say they're gonna fund it, and then everybody keeps moving. Or they say they're not gonna fund it, and we continue the conversation. But we're not closing any deal today, we're just keeping the idea of the Eagle came alive, which, I'm in favor of. Bonita Bay, I'm pretty confident we'll probably find that money. And I think it's a good benefit to their community, and I think it's a double benefit for the city as well. So, assuming things work out as they should probably in their meeting, I see no problem with us moving forward, because we're not agreeing to put any dollars on the table right now. That'll come back to us later. I think this just furthers the discussion so that they can appropriately address it at their HOA, which I'm in favor of.
Okay, Fred, you got a comment?
No, I agree with just letting them proceed till we know all the details, how much money we can get raised by donation, and then we know how much we'd have to put in if we're gonna do it.
Okay, do you need a vote on this?
because, wait, staff has been asked to do, does staff have to do something, or we wait until Chris comes back February 2nd and tells us that the board at Bonita Bay has voted X.
Arlene will figure it out.
Actually, I think at this point, staff is comfortable. We've updated you. You understand what the cost estimates are. I do not believe that we could get at any lower prices than we have. We're direct contracting with those internet service providers. This is the best way to execute it on the city's website and eventually Bonita Television. So I think what we can do is once we can, I think Bonita Bay was looking for some direction that they wanted from us to move forward so they could bring before their board the funding request, or whether it be board members directly or residents directly, they wanted some indication from the city that we were moving forward.
Right, I mean, they've got it on the agenda tomorrow, they just wanna know if we're still interested in
If we're
doing
gonna
it.
pursue it, I think
Yeah.
that was, so if the council's willing to continue the pursuit, I think that it would be beneficial for Bonita Bay to hear that in form of a motion, but I think we have enough direction.
I'd like to make a motion that the council, the city is in favor of pursuing a webcam for the Eagles that are at Bonita Bay.
Second.
Councilwoman Carr?
No.
Mayor Steinmeier?
Yes.
Councilman Corey?
Yes.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba?
Aye.
Councilman Purdon?
Okay. I'm sure the Eagle has a number there, Chris. I'm sure somebody put a number on it.
Maybe the city can participate in naming them.
We could have a naming contest.
Yeah.
There you
and
go.
They have to pay $10 to.
I'm sure the Eagle people will have a number on that bird. Okay. Pickleball at the YMCA. Who's gonna present this?
I am. The YMCA built pickleball courts back in, I think it was 2000. They got money from us, about 150 grand, and then they put in money. They built 8 pickleball courts. Part of the agreement when we gave them the money was that the price per what's called
See you, Jay.
a walk-on game.
Thank you, Jay.
A walk-on game would be $4 a game. And now, as everybody knows, the inflation is rampant. Just this last year, their cost has gone up, operating cost of the Y. It's gone up 21%, and they've asked if they can get the city's concurrence to raise the price of the walk-on games to $6. Now, before we go further, let me explain a couple things. Most of the walk-on games are done by people that are not here the year round. They're here for maybe 30 days. They're here for up to 6 months, probably 3 months. And if you do a little arithmetic, right now, the cost for a single membership is $48. So if it did get raised to $6, if you played twice a week for 4 weeks, you'd recover the cost of a membership, but the membership entitles you to all kind of other things that you can do at the Y, the big exercise thing and all that. I think we should prove it. The other thing that the Y does do, even on their memberships, if you're a low-income family, you get they call it scholarshiping, but basically what it is the $48 fee is reduced to something more affordable to their income level. Same way in that preschool building that they built, they scholarship there, so they do serve a lot of the lower income working people in the city. So that's basically what the proposal is.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Fred, I read all the paperwork on this, and the original deal was $4 a day, and this is calling for $6 per game. There's a difference between a day and a game. Can we clarify that? That's question number one. Question number two, Fred, is how the supply and demand, is there a big demand, or is it just?
I've got Mark Suen, the chairman of
Okay.
the board here, of the
Very
board.
good.
Good evening. The answer to your question is it's $4 per time. So if you play one game or 20 games, it's still just $4. But if you come back the next day, it's another $4.
Right.
So it's $4 per day, but usually people play an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and that's what the $4 is for.
Okay, I question because it's for per day and it's
Right.
per game, and some guy stopped at me today and said, "Do you have any trouble with the noise on a pickleball?" I don't know. I don't hear anything. And I said, well, and I had read this. I said, well, how long does a pickleball game last? You know, he came up with some sort of estimate, and I said, well, is it a game or is it a day?
It's a day.
That's why it's a day.
It's a day, and usually,
That's good.
I'm guessing they
Now,
probably...
how busy are you?
Quite. With a busy time, busiest time is now.
Oh, yeah.
In season. And so right now, we're packed in the morning, a little less in the afternoon, and then usually quite busy again in the evening because we have lights, and a lot of pickleball courts don't have lights, so they tend to come there. We have about 600 to 700 people who we call walk-ons that pay this $4 per month during season. Off-season drops to maybe 150 to 200 because there's a lot fewer people that coming in. And so the difference is that right now that brings in about $20,000 for the year. With this increase, it'll be like $30,000. So it's a $10,000 difference. And one of the things that I didn't mention to Fred was that because we have a lot of playing on the courts, we're going to have to resurface those courts probably this coming summer when the play is lower. And that'll be about a $20,000 cost just to resurface so that they're back up to professional playing caliber. So that's we've taken our single membership from $36 to $48 to reflect the cost we have. Our costs are mainly labor, and because most of our facilities we raise funds to build those, we don't have mortgages or anything. But labor is very hard to get. We have that early learning center staff that has capability of 155 kids. We have 113. The reason is we can't find teachers. And we've raised our starting salary, we've raised bonuses, we've done all kinds of things, but there just aren't very many people out there that are ready and able to work. So we're having to do that across all of our YMCA counselors and people, and that's what's leading us to begin to raise some prices.
Well, I've played tennis a few times, and you hit the ball, and then you go chase the ball, you know. I see him playing pickleball, and it looks like more fun. It's almost like a table tennis. Is there a demand for more?
Oh, tremendous amount.
Mr. Mayor, is not pickleball now like almost #1 in the area?
It is, and we're getting a lot of pressure to build.
Would you stop interrupting?
Excuse me.
We're getting a lot of pressure right now to add an additional 8 courts, which would take us to 16. And but we need to look at that economically and make sure we can afford to, in fact, be able to do that. But the pressure is very high, and the pressure on us comes from communities that don't have their own pickleball courts, or ones that have pickleball courts but have run out of space and can't build anymore. And so we're getting more and more people as time goes on to play, which is wonderful. That's what we're there for. The good news for us is that a fair number of them are now starting to buy the membership because with the math that Fred highlighted, particularly if there's a family, you know, that's $72 a month, but for a family, you can bring the kids and the wife and everybody and play, and there's no charge. In addition, if you're a member, you can schedule time. If you're a walk-on, you're literally a walk-on. You come and then you play in the general session.
Would you consider taking another piece of money from the city to build more courts?
If we needed it, I think we would. I think we're okay. The key thing that helps us is we put a lot of infrastructure in on the first 8. And so a lot of the money was spent running high voltage lines and other stuff and leveling things out. So I don't have a good estimate yet as to what the next cost is gonna be, but, we're working on that as we speak.
Working on it right now, you're collecting some money to resurface for maintenance.
Exactly.
Okay, well, you can come back later on if you need another loan or whatever.
Mayor?
We'll look
yes,
forward to a
Amy.
discussion.
I just like to wind it down and just say, we appreciate the partnership that we have with the Y, not just for pickleball, but for the other facilities that you provide our citizens. It's really been working beautifully, and coming from a community that has their own pickleball courts, we keep sending our excess over to you.
Exactly, we get a lot of the excess.
But anyway, it's a wonderful asset for the cities, for thank you for everything that you do. And I definitely think you should raise your prices. It costs us a lot more than $4 at Pelican Landing to run our pickleball courts. We don't charge, but I mean, the cost is much higher than that.
Okay, do we need a vote on this?
There was,
Had a motion and a second.
there was a motion and a second.
Vote, I guess.
Mayor Steinmeier?
Aye.
Councilman Corey?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Grumba?
Aye.
Councilman Purdon?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I apologize. Before my items jump up, may I ask for a 5-minute recess?
Oh, that's a good idea. City Attorney, you get to introduce this one, I guess.
Yep, and I'm gonna turn it over to Carly.
All right,
Yes, thank you.
get the microphone on.
As you know, we have
I
initiated.
can't hear you. Wait, get the hearing aids in. Okay, try again, okay.
Thank you. As everyone is aware, we have initiated our redistricting process, and we have just concluded our first round of one-on-ones with our consultant. The purpose of this round was to explain the criteria, which the agenda item before you is to adopt the criteria that we will utilize in preparing the alternative district maps. For the benefit of the public, these are standard constitutional, most of them are constitutional criteria, including population equality, compliance with voting rights, compact and contiguous district shapes, and then we will try our best to respect geographical and political boundaries, as well as keeping neighborhoods and subdivisions together. We have included in this resolution the opportunity to consider future growth. Tonight, we are not establishing the measuring threshold for that. We are just including it as a possibility of consideration. The next step will be a public workshop with some alternative maps to receive feedback from both council and the public. And I believe at that time we can get some feedback on which measuring threshold we would like to consider.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Vote?
Well, I did have comment on that actually, real quick. I think I'm very glad that you put that in there because, you know, just looking at it at face value right now with the things that are already approved that we're not considering, you know. So we all get, for the people listening at home, just to give you perspective, we had a meeting on this and each one of us individually, and, you know, at the end of the day, we'll all have about 9.5 thousand people we'd represent. So as it is with things that we already have that are on the books, approved, and going to be built, you know, districts, I think it's 6, you're getting about 3,000 more. So, for example, in 2020, we all have 9.5 if we do it this way. In 2024, we have District 6 would have, you know, 12.5 to our 9.5. And we only do this every decade, and the point is to try to get it as equal as possible. So if we know it's on the books, it's the most clear and transparent way that we can plan forward. We only get to do it once a decade. If we know it's already approved, it should be in there. And the reason that's important, because as they're moving things around right now within the districts we have, those numbers aren't currently incorporated or considered. So if we put those in there, it's the most honest reflection of what we as a city are doing. So in my opinion, that's really something that we would have to consider very strongly moving forward. So that's all I've got. Thank you, Carly. I think that's very important.
And now the consultant had to take his wife to the hospital on my meeting time, so I don't know nothing. So we'll work this out later on. Motion to approve. Roll call.
Councilman Corey?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Grumba?
Aye.
Councilman Purdon?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier.
Aye. Okay, gee whiz, moving along here.
All right, Mayor and Council, I apologize for the next one. It's a little confusing, I'm sure, reading material, and I gave you a significant and voluminous amount of backup materials, but I didn't want you to accuse me of not providing you some backup. So what this is, and for some context, is something the city did previously, I believe in 2016, is this is a public hearing expressly for the purposes of supporting a conduit financing effort. Now, what conduit financing is essentially it is a mechanism through the tax code where nonprofits and public entities work to secure tax-exempt financing. And so for a tax-exempt financing, there has to be a public benefit and a public purpose. And in this situation, the Alachua County Healthcare Financing Facility is the conduit financer. There is a requirement that the jurisdiction in which the facility that is being financed is in hold a public hearing. We are not required to make any very specific findings, but we are, in order for them to qualify for this financing ability, to hold a public hearing. There is no recourse to the city. The city is not involved in any borrowing. The city has only holding a hearing as to whether or not this is a public benefit. And what this does is it allows a local organization to have access to tax-exempt financing, similar to municipal bond financing, but generally for private activity bonds like this, where there's not pledge of government revenues, it's a higher risk, there's a higher yield on the interest rates, but that tax-exempt status gives some additional flexibility and opportunity for large projects such as healthcare facilities, hospitals, and others to be able to have access to those capital markets. We have representatives here from the Terraces of Bonita Springs who can speak as to what this is being utilized for, but essentially this is partially refunding a pre-existing bond issuance and providing for additional funds for an expansion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Mayor.
Now, I got questions for the top banana here we got.
Oh, no.
That's
Not
what
so
she
much.
says. The head honcho. How much was the original loan, and how is it? You're looking to borrow 90 million.
And I believe it was a little bit less, and Dick actually probably knows better than I do. 80, 86, 88 million.
So you're not making any progress on the principal?
Not making a whole lot of progress on the principal. We're working on that, and we're gonna use some of the money also to do some capital improvements to keep us relevant in the industry.
6.5% tax-free is pretty enticing.
Yes, it is.
I'll have to figure out how to give you some of my money. I can't get that at the bank. There must be some risks there. But anyways, I don't think you'll go bankrupt in Bonita with old people, huh?
We would like not to.
All right, I call for a roll call, or Debbie?
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Caramba.
Aye.
Councilman Purdon.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier.
Aye,
Councilman Corey.
Aye.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The city manager's report, how are we doing there?
Thank you, Mayor and
Arlene?
Council. I was going to ask for we'd like to begin a series of workshops on our capital improvement projects. Originally, I was going to ask for February 2nd to start at 4. I think that in lieu of the zoning application you have in front of you, that might make for a longer evening. I was going to see if you would all consider moving our February 16th meeting to 5:30 p.m. and letting us start with a workshop at 4. We would segment out the first workshop to do would just be the transportation and multi-use CIP. Seeing how that series of workshops works, then we would move on to parks and recreation as well, and then citywide facilities, and then follow up with stormwater and grants as well.
It sounds good to me. Any direction?
Start at 4.
We would start at 4 with a workshop recess prior to
And-
the city
February-
council meeting at
February-
5:30.
And the date?
16th.
February 16th.
16th?
That is a normal 9 a.m. meeting.
And we're gonna move it to 5:30.
We move the meeting to 5:30. We would start our workshop at 4.
4 o'clock, okay. You got direction?
And that's the
Do we have
first
to
of
vote?
several workshops?
Yes, and we'll see how that one goes from there. We'll schedule the rest, and we're going to break the CIPs out, so we're taking a bite of the apple each time.
Okay.
Additionally, we will be in touch with you to schedule a redistricting meeting. As you know, our consultant's wife had some health issues, so we are going to be working with another local consultant to facilitate that public workshop here at City Hall. And then our redistricting consultant will be available virtually during that meeting. So we're going to be reaching out to you to schedule that. In that meeting, it would be a public meeting. You all are welcome to attend, but you would not provide your comments or feedback during that workshop. You would reserve that for the council meeting.
Okay, do we have to vote on that?
No, I think I have direction.
Okay. What do we got? City manager? Mayor and council reports? Amy, please.
I'm going to start out by wishing everybody a happy new year, so, because I can't believe it's been so long since we've been together. But anyway, I'm looking forward to a very productive 2022 where so many of these wonderful projects that we're involved with will come to fruition. And I just want to mention a few sad things, one of which is the tornadoes that hit so close to us in Iona and Fort Myers, and just, I think you've already been noticed this, but there is a funding effort to help those victims, and I have to say that a community that I represent in District 1, Citrus Park, is playing a part of trying to help them be since they are a sister community of a manufactured housing environment. So that was kind of a tough day for them, and we support anyone that has to go through any kind of weather emergency, because we know how we suffered, and our hearts go out to them. And I also want to mention the terroristic attack that happened in Colleyville, Texas, on Congregation Beth Israel, and just make the comment that, you know, an attack on anyone because of the religion is an attack on all of us, because it's such a fundamental right of our country. And I think that we all need to stop and mention that and say that we are so fortunate to live in Bonita Springs in Southwest Florida, where we embrace people of all faiths or those that don't have faith. So I feel very fortunate to live here, but I want to recognize the suffering that some people have in different parts of this country, and I support all the citizens of Bonita Springs who has the same attitude as we do, that we are in favor of the right to religious faith, and but I think we have to mention that. And then I just also, this is a little nicer thing to talk about, is I did attend a meeting with Amira Fox, who is the state attorney for the 20th district. It's a 5-county state attorney, and I have to say that she talked about all the programs that have initiated in these 5 counties in which we live, and one of the reasons why we live in beautiful Southwest Florida is because we are confident that we have a safe environment, and our legal system supports safety and lawfulness. So that was encouraging to me, and I just wanted to call her out on how happy I was to attend that meeting with her. That's it.
Fred, you want to put you on deck here?
Yeah. I want to kind of piggyback a little bit on what Amy had to say. We also are blessed that we don't live in any of these big metropolises where somebody's getting killed every day. And if you do something wrong here, between our prosecuting state's attorney and our sheriff, nobody's going to do some violent crime to anybody and not have to first post a big bond to get out of jail before the trial, and they're going to probably go away for some number of years. So I think that is as important as the other part of what she was talking about. I think I'll let it go at that.
Okay, thank you. Jesse, maybe?
Yes, sir, thank you. A couple things. Number one, I wanted to give a shout out to LCSO Community Policing. Their work, they did some really good work in my community today, so I just wanted to let you all know that they're on top of things and they're just doing a great job. So you're very much appreciated. Number two, unfortunately, our FGCU water steward responded this morning to a dead manatee in the Imperial. She was beached. There's a toxicology report that's going to be done through Fish and Wildlife. So sad, but that was something that happened on the Imperial. I wanted to let you all know about that. And then, of course, I wanted to thank Governor DeSantis, for the $16 million plus dollars. It's great. It's a great thing for the city, honestly, as far as folks who may not know the districts and whatnot. Right over 75. Between the YMCA and Marnie Fields, it's a very risky way to try to travel. And if you remember that little soccer team that was in here the other day, that's where these kids practice. So, you have kids who are going on bikes and on foot over 75, and there's almost no space. So this not only takes care of that, but there's also underlying water infrastructure stuff that's going to be covered in this. So, it was such a blessing to get that money. Ellie is absolutely amazing for helping us get that in. Honestly, it's something we forgot about. And then just what a blessing to wake up and get that. And
Amen.
so I just wanted to mention that, and that's all I've got. Thank you. God bless.
Okay, Laura, would you chime in for
Well,
us?
I too would like to say Happy New Year to all, and thank the governor for coming over and providing us $16.7 million, which will be greatly appreciated for stormwater management. And I believe that in the coming future, we should go back to an original seating. It is very difficult to follow who's talking and how to trace. So we should sit according to district, and we should all be professional and just sort of move on if there's an irritation. And that, I don't want to discuss it tonight, but I do believe that we should return to original seating because I've heard from many people it is difficult to figure out who's who and which district is represented. And I've had actually court reporters tell me it's very difficult to follow the meeting. So I would like that to be considered. And that's all.
Just point of clarification, what's hard to follow about how we
Who's
sit?
who and our.
That's what the name tags are for, and then, I'm just curious, I'm really curious.
I hate to bring it. Let's finish one. Mike, how about,
I'm good, thanks.
you're good, how about Chris?
I'm good.
You're good. Me, we'll think about this. We'll think about that. I think we have a pretty productive meeting. We got approval of the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Crumba?
Aye.
Councilman Purdon?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier?
Aye.
Councilman Corey?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Okay, public comment. On anything?
I don't think there's any public.
Okay, I guess, motion to adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you.